video. So my name's Steph Neal. It's a way for me to share all the tips and tricks that I have developed over the 11 years that I've been teaching Pilates and practicing physio, and a way for me to share that with other people. So when I was first teaching, I found it really hard to kind of navigate the space, and I had to try and work out how to put it all together myself. And when I had a studio, the Pilates teachers that were working for me, they needed certain things in their training after their Pilates teaching in order to help them feel comfortable and confident in teaching a Pilates class, and a reformer Pilates class specifically. So I thought, why not take the material that I was already teaching to my own Pilates teachers and share that with others. And so I help mentor Pilates teachers, mainly in their first kind of 0 to 4 years, in building their confidence and helping them feel like they can rock up into a room and teach any reformer Pilates class, all levels, giving lots of different challenges for different levels of clients, and creating fans that will keep coming back week after week. And so in this group, I wanted to foster a community where you could ask questions, get support from other Pilates teachers, and also give you access to some of the materials that I have found helpful for me and for other teachers over the years. And then any questions that I can help with, I will jump in and help you out as well. So today I wanted to chat to you a little bit just about Pilates class planning. And I think as new Pilates teachers, it can be so overwhelming trying to put everything into our Pilates class. We know what exercises are, we know them all singularly, but sometimes in our courses we aren't kind of taught how to put it all together. And so I know when I first started, I was like, well, what am I going to teach? Where do I even start? Where do I start them off? And especially if you're not teaching classically and you haven't been given this list of exercises and the order you do them in, then you can kind of start anywhere, and it's a little bit crazy and overwhelming to figure it out. So I have like a structure that I follow, and I found that that was really helpful. And so my first tip is for you to have some kind of structure or plan that you put into place and follow. So you can go into the guides and you can see a really brief structure that I followed when I was beginning. And it's simple, super, super simple. I feel like if you're not teaching a specific style of class like jump board or flow or something like that, then you really just want to give an overall full body class and workout. And so I usually start with a warm-up and I get my clients moving. Generally the warm-up is also a way for them to find their bodies and come out of their crazy hectic day and start to center in on the class, what's happening in their body, and just kind of block out the noise. So I like to include something that will help them do that. And then once I've done that, then I kind of go from there, and it depends where I start as to where I'll go next. So it depends what position I start. But I always like to include some form of exercise that has more of an upper body focus, a lower body focus, a full body focus, and some spinal articulation and mobility. And I like to give them a bit of a challenge in there as well. And as we know, a lot of the Pilates exercises are full body anyway, but in a more contemporary world, you can kind of come up with so many crazy exercises, and it can be really common for people to go to a class and only have done a leg workout. So I like to make sure that there's a full rounded class plan. So if you don't follow that class plan, that's completely fine. You don't have to. But if you have some kind of structure that you follow, then it's going to save you a lot of time when you're planning your classes, because you're not going to sit there and go, what am I going to do today? Where do I even start? What exercises do I put in? If you have a rough plan of what you're going to teach your clients, then it's going to save you some of that time. So that could look completely different for different people. And it might depend on where you're teaching. But you might even have a style of teaching where you want to do different planes of movement, or you always want to do feet in straps, or you might always do a movement in standing, in supine, in a sideways movement, and so that you have a rough structure of exactly kind of the headings of what you want to include in your class, and each time you teach your class, it's similar. So that way when you come to teach and plan your class, you just have to think of a cluster of exercise or a group of exercise that goes under each heading, and it's going to save you so much time. Now I know not everyone plans their class the same, and I know that you could write a plan and it could be completely different when you end up going and teaching it. But having a rough idea is going to help you go in with a bit more confidence. If you're not writing your class plan, that's fine. But I still think having a rough idea in your head, and even if you don't know it, you probably already do, have a rough idea of a structure that you're going to follow when you teach that class. And then I also think as a new teacher especially, well, as a new teacher, trying to pick exercises you feel confident to teach. So there's no point kind of putting yourself in an environment where you're already feeling anxious and a little bit nervous about teaching it and picking all these exercises that you really don't feel comfortable teaching. So confidence is going to breed confidence. And so pick the exercises you feel more confident and comfortable to teach. And that way, once you start to get the hang of navigating a whole class of clients, your cueing, even just introducing yourself to people, once you don't have to think about all the other things, then you can start to broaden your horizon with the exercises that you put in your classes. So I spoke about not everyone planning classes and writing them down. That's fine. I do think it's important to have a little bit of a record of what you've done with your class though. So even if you haven't written it down when you're teaching it, maybe jot down afterwards what it was that you taught and do a little reflection on, was that exercise too hard for your class? And did this work well? And, oh, this client did really well with that. So that the next time you come around to teaching a class or those clients, then you can have a record of, all right, well, this time I might do this differently. And I think when we're teaching people any form of exercise, the main way to get progress is consistency, but also progression. So you want to keep things consistent enough that they can get the hang of it, but then you need to provide them with a challenge and a progression so that they can improve over time, otherwise they'll plateau. And if you're not having some kind of record of what you've been doing, it's hard to be able to do that. So you might fall into the trap of always doing the same thing, or you might fall into the trap of doing so many different things that they get confused. And so I think it's really nice to kind of have a structure for your plan and your class, have a think about how that went for your clients, and then record it afterwards. And you can find a little structure in your guide section under Pilates class planning. It has a guide for what to put into a class. It has a little cheat sheet so you can see the sections that you can add in, and you can create your own based around that. And then it has a little reflection cheat sheet there as well. Some questions to ask yourself after a class to see how you felt the class went and maybe what you might change for next time.